March 20th, 2025. High above the Red Sea, a formation of small drones broke through the horizon. Fast, low, and headed straight for a key U.S. Navy corridor. Launched from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen, the drones weren't massive, but they didn't have to be. Armed or not, they posed a serious threat to shipping, radar systems, and American forces operating in the region. The order was simple: intercept. Within minutes, a U.S. F-18F Super Hornet from VFA 11, known as the Red Rippers, was airborne. But this time, something was different. Instead of firing a multi-million-dollar missile, the jet engaged with something far cheaper and far more surprising: laser-guided rockets. The pilot selected a weapon few expected to see in this fight: the APKWS, Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System. Originally designed for helicopters, it had now been modified for high-speed jets, and it was just about to be put to the test in real combat. One by one, the drones fell. Quietly, cleanly, with deadly precision. No boom, no brag, just results. But this wasn't just about one jet or one interception. This was a shift in strategy, in cost, and in how the U.S. deals with low-cost threats that keep evolving. So why did the U.S. switch from missiles to rockets? What made this attack different from any before? And what does this mean for the future of air combat? Let's break it down. The moment the F-18F locked onto its target, the tone of the engagement changed. This wasn't the kind of fight that most pilots train for. There wasn't a dogfight, no supersonic chase, no radar jamming stealth war. It was simpler, and in many ways, stranger. On radar, the drones appeared as small, fast-moving dots. Their flight paths were erratic, likely programmed for a swarm effect, or even to confuse automated defense systems aboard U.S. warships. But the Super Hornet wasn't relying on shipboard defenses this time. It had its own solution. From under its wings, the pilot selected an unexpected option: a pod loaded with APKWS rockets. These weren't the heat seekers or the radar-guided long-range weapons. These were upgraded 70mm Hydra rockets, retrofitted with a laser guidance kit. Lightweight, cheap, and incredibly precise. With the drone locked in on the targeting system, the pilot engaged. The first rocket launched cleanly, streaking through the sky with a controlled, almost silent burst. It didn't explode like a Sidewinder or leave a trail of smoke like a Tomahawk. It simply connected. Target down. And then again. Another drone, same sequence. Lock, fire, impact, gone. The APKWS proved not only accurate, but effective in a way that shocked many watching the incident unfold in post-mission analysis. Traditional missiles are overkill for small drones, expensive, heavy, and limited in number. But APKWS, the pilot could carry more, engage faster, and save the big missiles for bigger threats. What made this encounter even more unique was the efficiency. In an age where militaries are judged by cost-to-kill ratios as much as raw power, using a $27,000 rocket to shoot down a drone that cost $20,000 suddenly made a lot more sense than firing a $400,000 missile. The Houthi drones didn't have much of a chance. Designed to exploit gaps in traditional air defense systems by being too small, too fast, or too cheap, they were now being met with a response just as agile and just as cheap. The result is a weapon that hits within inches of its target without the cost or complexity of a full-blown missile. What's even more remarkable is where it came from. APKWS was originally designed for helicopters and light attack aircraft, like the AH-64 Apache or the Marine Corps' AH-1Z Viper. It wasn't meant for high-speed fighter jets. But with evolving threats like drone swarms, the Navy and Air Force saw potential. Integrating APKWS into jets like the F-18 wasn't just a smart tactical move, it was a budget revolution in combat. And make no mistake, these rockets are deadly. They've been combat-proven in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. But March 20th was one of the first times they were publicly confirmed in use against a drone sworn over open water from a fast-moving jet platform. That adaptability makes APKWS something bigger than just a weapon. It's a symbol of a new kind of air combat. Not always bigger, not always faster, but smarter. For decades, U.S. fighter jets have been built to dominate high-end threats. Enemy aircraft, radar installations, advanced missile systems. But in recent years, the battlefield has changed. The most common threat isn't always another jet. It's a drone. Small, fast, hard to see, and cheap. That's why the US had to rethink how it fights back. Launching a $500,000 missile every time a drone buzzes a warship isn't sustainable. It's not just about wasting money, it's about limiting the number of engagements a pilot can respond to in one mission. Traditional air-to-air missiles are heavy, few in number, and designed for peer-level threats. APKWS changes that equation. With laser-guided rockets, a fighter jet can carry more weapons, fire faster, and respond proportionally to the threat. Instead of using a $400,000 missile to shoot down a drone made from spare parts, the pilot can use a $27,000 rocket, a smarter match in both cost and effect. But the benefit isn't just economic. Laser-guided weapons reduce collateral damage. Their precision makes them ideal for narrow targets, because modern threats aren't always complex. Sometimes they're just constant. And winning in that environment means fighting smarter, not just harder. The March 20th incident didn't just showcase a new weapon, it revealed a shift in mindset. For decades, air combat has been defined by speed, stealth, and power. Fighter jets were judged by how fast they could fly, how high they could climb, and how advanced their missile systems were. But as the battlefield evolves, so do the metrics for success. Today, the most effective aircraft isn't always the most expensive. It's the one that can engage the widest range of threats and do it with precision and economy. The APKWS strike over the Red Sea marked a turning point. It showed that the US is no longer focused solely on high-end dogfights or large-scale bombing runs. The future is about adaptability. Missions now demand the ability to transition instantly from tracking a high-speed jet to intercepting a drone the size of a backpack. Laser-guided rockets like the APKWS give the fighter pilots that flexibility. Instead of saving all their hard-hitting ordnance for major targets, pilots now have a middle ground weapon, something they can deploy quickly, accurately, and without worrying about cost or overkill. This changes the way future air engagements will be planned. Rather than preparing for one type of enemy, modern squadrons are training for multi-layered threats. Drones, speedboats, radar jammers, even cyber-linked UAV swarms. And they'll need weapons that are just as layered. It's not just about dominating the air anymore. It's about managing the airspace, controlling the tempo, limiting the risk, and maintaining strategic overmatch without unnecessary escalation. The US military knows the next conflict won't look like the last. And the pilots flying today's missions, they're training for a future where every trigger pull counts, not just tactically, but financially and politically. The laser-guided rocket is no longer a niche tool. It's a frontline choice. And that choice is shaping the way America flies. When a US jet takes out enemy drones with laser-guided rockets, it's not just a tactical win, it's a strategic message. And that message travels far beyond the Red Sea. To the Houthis, the March 20th interception wasn't just a setback, it was a reality check. For years, they've exploited gaps in traditional defense systems. Their drones are cheap, mobile, and easy to launch from remote locations. They've used them not just for surveillance, but for strikes on commercial ships, oil infrastructure, and even allied naval vessels. Their strength has always been in cost versus disruption. Spend $10,000 on a drone, force the enemy to spend $500,000 to stop it. But this time, the equation flipped. With APKWS, the US matched the low-cost strategy without sacrificing precision or control. And that throws a wrench into the Houthis' playbook. Proxy forces like Hezbollah, Iranian-backed militias, and even non-state drone operators around the world are watching closely. These groups rely on swarm tactics and asymmetrical pressure to stretch Western resources. The US answer wasn't bigger bombs, it was smarter ones. The kind of strike that sends a global signal. You can go right ahead and swarm us with drones, but we're ready, and it won't cost us millions to stop you either. That changes the risk-reward ratio for groups who've long assumed that the US wouldn't respond unless provoked in a major way. It also has implications for state actors, especially Iran. Tehran has supported and supplied drone technology to the Houthis, betting that cheap aerial harassment could tie down US assets and project regional power. But now, the return on that investment looks weaker. A single F-18F with low-cost precision weapons was able to neutralize multiple threats without needing a carrier strike, a drone swarm of its own, or a prolonged engagement. That kind of efficiency makes escalation far less attractive for US rivals, and more dangerous for the proxies who carry out the dirty work. And let's not forget America's allies. Nations in the Gulf, East Africa, and even in the Indo-Pacific have watched the US responses to drone threats with growing interest. The use of APKWS demonstrates a flexible toolkit, one that can be scaled, adapted, and deployed quickly. It's not just about protecting ships. It's about defending credibility. The promise that threats will be met proportionally, but decisively. In that way, the March 20th incident wasn't just a military footnote. It was a strategic broadcast heard loud and clear across the region and far beyond. The March 20th encounter didn't end when the last drone went down. In many ways, it was just the beginning. Because what happened over the Red Sea wasn't just a victory, it was a test run, and one that passed with flying colors. Now that the US has shown it can successfully arm fast jets with low-cost laser-guided rockets, the next question is, how far will this go? Expect to see more US aircraft, F-18s, F-16s, even A-10s, equipped with APKWS for quick, efficient strikes against small, mobile threats. It won't replace missiles, it won't replace drones, but it adds a new tier of response, one that fills the gap between overkill and inaction. Carrier groups are already rethinking their loadouts. Commanders now have a proven option that's scalable, flexible, and far more affordable in drawn-out engagements. That matters, especially in regions like the Red Sea, where threats are persistent, low-tech, and politically sensitive. Meanwhile, the Houthis are likely reassessing their drone doctrine. What used to work, cheap disruption through aerial swarms, is no longer a guaranteed pressure tactic. If every drone can be countered quickly and cheaply, the incentive to deploy them in bulk starts to fade. Expect changes. More stealthy drone profiles, higher altitude flights, more GPS jamming. The cat-and-mouse game is far from over. And the US? They'll keep adapting too. This kind of flexible firepower plays well into evolving military doctrines like distributed lethality and adaptive force packaging. It means smaller units can operate independently, with the right tools to handle fast-developing threats, without always waiting for top cover or missile authorization. The takeaway here is clear. Modern warfare isn't about sheer power anymore. It's about precision, cost, and tempo. And thanks to weapons like the APKWS, the US just proved it can win on all three fronts: faster, smarter, and without breaking the bank. A single US jet, a swarm of drones, and a weapon system that no one expected to see in the fight. March 20th wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about outsmarting the threat. Quickly precisely and without wasting a single shot. Laser-guided rockets like the APKWS are changing the rules, not just for pilots, but for commanders, strategists, and anyone watching how modern warfare is really being fought. Because in this new era, the side that can adapt fastest often wins before the next move is made. So what do you think? Is this the future of air combat, where cheaper, smarter weapons do the job missiles once did? Or is this the beginning of another arms race between drones and the systems designed to destroy them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to go one step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us bring more real naval stories to the surface. Click join on our channel page and step aboard. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay informed, and keep watching the skies.